Is Bethesda, the developer of Fallout and Skyrim, evil? And why does everybody think this guy is a liar? To find out, let's check out the skeletons in Bethesda's closet, starting with the bugs of Oblivion. The year is 2006, and Bethesda are about to release the sequel to their first smash hit, Morrowind. Morrowind had required a lot of overtime and had taken a real toll on the developer team. So the team leader Todd Howard had made sure that for Oblivion things would be different. And now at the end of the Oblivion development, Todd had succeeded, with much less crunch time to finish the game. However, it had come at a cost. Morrowind had come out with a lot of bugs, and Oblivion would come out with possibly even more bugs, which set the original trend for Bethesda games being not always very stable.
If you've ever experienced a bug in a Bethesda game, remember to like and subscribe.
But the customers forgave Bethesda because Oblivion was fun. And as an unintended side effect, the bugs also gave a big upswing to the Elder Scrolls modding community, which had previously existed, but this time it was almost necessary to play the game. With the Oblivion incident, Bethesda had played a dangerous game, but it paid off with millions of sales, eventually even eclipsing Morrowind in sales. However, 1 month after launch, Bethesda would test the waters with a new downloadable content for Oblivion: the $5 horse armor. In a post-Counter-Strike skin world, this might seem silly, but in 2006, $5 was a lot of money to put down on a game. And when Bethesda's new downloadable content revealed itself to only be, literally, a piece of horse armor, people were very disappointed. Bethesda swung back after this with all the rest of the DLC, including the Shivering Isles expansion, which is fantastic. But the community would not forget this. Remember that in 2006, $5 was a lot of money to put down on a video game. This was the age of the Flash game, when you could play full-length, high-quality games for free if you just had an internet connection. But if you think $5 horse armor is bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. Fallout 3, broken. 2 years later, in 2008, Fallout 3 came out, the ending of which made people really piss their pants. To break it down, the ending is literally unfinished. What happens is that you restart a device that can create pure water for the entire world by going inside the device and killing yourself. By going inside the device, exposing yourself to lethal radiation, and then instantly dying. Now, it works in a messiah way. By sacrificing your own life, you save others, which is supposed to be the high point of all the game's Christian themes. But a lot of people's main companion at this point in the game is going to be a super mutant who's immune to radiation, and who will refuse to enter the chamber if you ask him. In addition, even if it made sense to sacrifice yourself, it would still be an unsatisfying ending after putting dozens of hours into building a character. But here's the thing, by the time that somebody has gotten to the ending, they've already bought the game, so Bethesda literally can't lose. But here we get to the fact that the game is literally unfinished. After people got pissed off at the bad ending, Bethesda tried to fix it in post by releasing a DLC called Broken Steel, thus acknowledging that the original game was broken on launch. This means whether intentionally or unintentionally, they've released a game for full price and then charge you 800 Microsoft points more to see the ending. If they were gonna fix the ending, it should have been a free patch. People already paid for the game. This is the first official moment of evil, because by doing this, Bethesda confirmed that they had sold people a problem so that they could sell them a solution. However, it gets a little bit better. Because Broken Steel was literally broken on launch and had to be pulled down from the Windows Store for a couple of days so that Bethesda could fix it. I guess it literally was a broken steal of your money. Ironic. Next up, the 84% Heist of New Vegas. Bethesda had in 2007 sued Interplay for the Fallout license, and successfully gotten it after a payment of $2 million. A bit later, after Interplay had reformed themselves as Obsidian, Obsidian came back and wanted to finish their original vision for Fallout 3. Bethesda agreed, and so Obsidian got cracking in just 18 months using Bethesda's creation engine to finish Fallout New Vegas. 18 months is like no time at all to create a major AAA video game, but you know what happened? Not only did New Vegas come out on time, it was also fucking awesome. However, Bethesda and Obsidian had made a certain deal, where Obsidian would get payouts from Bethesda for certain Metacritic scores. One of those payments were at 85% positive reviews, and Fallout New Vegas ended up at 84%. Falling 1% short. This is even after Obsidian pleaded with reviewers to give them higher scores. Obsidian produced a masterpiece in just 18 months, with no help with the creation engine from the Fallout 3 team, since the Fallout 3 team was busy making Fallout 4. This isn't evil, but it's fucking disrespectful, don't you think? Funnily enough, there is actually another small story of Bethesda withholding payments to developers in the past. The Echelon Strike. In 2001, Bethesda published a game called Echelon for a first-time Russian developer called Media Entertainment, who, from what I understand, was just a couple of Russian dudes, who at the time only had money for food, were working on outdated computers, and only had a single 19200 modem to share between them. For 3 years, they worked relentlessly to finish the game. The plan was to bring Echelon through 5 stages of development, and whenever Media completed one of these stages, they would receive $50,000 from Bethesda. Media continued working and eventually finished Echelon, receiving 2 of the 5 promised payments of $50,000. But then, Media did what we in the slave driving industry call a rookie mistake. Before Media had received the last 3 payments of $50,000 each, Media rendered out the game and sent it to Bethesda. As we say in Sweden, the opportunity makes the thief, and Bethesda decided to just save those $150,000 by stiffing Media. This is all what Media alleged in an open letter to Bethesda, and Bethesda's answer was basically, too bad. But it actually gets worse. Once Echelon started selling internationally, Media realized that Bethesda weren't sending them any money for the sales of the boxed copies of Echelon, so Media may potentially have gotten fucked twice. I haven't been able to find any follow-up stories on this, and Media never decided to sue, so it's hard to know what actually happened. But there's a couple of scenarios we can probably guess. A. Bethesda hypothetically exploited Media by giving them a contract that they didn't understand, which gave Bethesda the legal right to fuck Media out of their money. B. Bethesda weren't in the legal right and just stiffed Media anyway, and since Media was just a couple of Russian guys making a video game, they didn't really have the resources or legal expertise to sue. C. It was actually the Russian publisher Buka that was withholding Bethesda's payments to Media. Although if this was the case, Bethesda's reply would probably have included a phrase such as, "We've already sent the money." Either way, the game did pretty okay. It would have been better for both parties if Bethesda had sent them a sum as a sign of goodwill, especially for a first-time developer. Imagine if somebody had done this to Bethesda when they released The Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. That probably would have been very demotivating. In this situation, I can't say if what Bethesda did was good or evil, but the fact they even landed themselves in the situation is not a good sign, especially when you consider the other times that Bethesda have mistreated game studios. Footnote: Bethesda has previously tried a hostile acquisition of another video game developer, Human Head Studios, the developers of Brink and Prey, and they have also previously succeeded with another hostile acquisition of Arkane, the developer of Dark Messiah and Dishonored. That's why Bethesda owns Arkane now. End of footnote. So the Echelon stiffening was 2001, and the New Vegas Metacritic incident was 2010. But which popular Bethesda game came out the year after that, and then subsequently every year after that for every console forever? It's Skyrim. The Lies of Skyrim. Skyrim is a pretty fun game. I mean, it's an absolute mess that's still, to this day, riddled with bugs, because they're still making these games in the Creation Engine, the engine that they made Morrowind in. When they released the remastered special edition, it had a bunch of new issues for some reason, but the issues aren't so big that they eclipse what is ultimately a very fun and accessible adventure. And if you get the Hearthfire DLC, you can still do things in the roleplay world that you could never do in real life, like buying a house or marrying someone. Skyrim is Bethesda's most well-appreciated game, and the reason for that is simple. It's fun. However, Skyrim is the game where Bethesda officially turned ugly. Now, the only people that lie more than politicians are video game publishers, and everybody who plays video games knows this. But for Skyrim, Todd was really getting bold, with real-time simulated towns and economies, like in Star Sector, with infinite quests, with the fact that you could climb any mountain that you see, and that the Radiant AI was supposed to be completely unscripted. All of this was bullshit, and these are just the big lies. There's way more small ones. Skyrim's lies were so egregious that it may single-handedly have killed hype culture. And hype culture was everywhere on the video game internet before this. That's how offensive it was. But there would be no brakes on the Todd Howard train, because it was time for all of this to just work.
All of this just works.
The Creation Club abuse. In 2015, Fallout 4 came out. Todd Howard had been lying about it as per usual, but as customers of video games, we are used to lying. So let's skip past that and go for the throat instead. The Creation Club. As previously mentioned, people do be modding the Bethesda game, because God knows Bethesda ain't publishing any bug fixes. So Bethesda had a good idea. What if we created an official platform for mods? You sign in with your Bethesda account, download the mods you want, and then immediately it's just on the game. Beautiful. It's a really good solution. So how did Bethesda fuck it up? You remember the horse armor? Yeah, they started charging money for the mods that used to be free, and a good chunk of the money would go to Bethesda, since they own the platform, instead of all the money going to the mod maker who did the actual work. Remember, by the way, that at this time there were entire free separate games made in the Fallout engines available for free online as mods, and what Bethesda was putting up on the Creation Club was basically just cosmetics for a fucking first-person game. So this was pretty offensive to the community that had for years been supporting the Bethesda games with their modding and their love. But it was about to get a lot worse, because then they made Fallout 76. The Fallout 76 of Bethesda. If you haven't actually watched Internet Historian's video on Fallout 76, then there's a link up there. But just to give you the short version, Fallout 76 is one of the most controversial releases of all time. Like, imagine if Borderlands was made by Bethesda. There you go. The bugs were absolutely overpowering, outright bricking some people's games and even their hardware. Even when people could play, they realized the game wasn't actually very good, on top of which was pretty intense grinding and monetization through the in-game shop, which offers so-called time savers, which if you buy them for real-world money, you get the reward of not having to play the game. So from the very bottom of the concept to the very top of the execution, Fallout 76 was rotten to the core. A major reason for this was because the game was developed by Bethesda Austin, which simply did not have the expertise of the main Fallout, expertise of the main Fallout team. And these inexperienced developers were supposed to deliver on Todd Howard's lies, like a game world with 16 times the detail and 4 times the map size of Fallout 4. And this isn't even mentioning the way that they handled the people who bought the collector's edition, or how they sometimes denied refunds, which turned out to be illegal, or all the fucking merch that they put out for some reason, or the fact that now, years after the initial launch, the game has reached the dizzying heights of being a Borderlands-style looter shooter. That is to say, not actually a video game. And this brings us to the modern day. Is Bethesda evil? Yes. The fact that they released Fallout 76 in the state that they did for full price and didn't warn anybody, that is evil. And considering that this seems to be an evolution rather than a single incident, I don't see anything that redeems this. Is Todd Howard evil? No, at least not in the way that EA is evil. The way that Todd Howard has lied to millions of potential customers does make him complicit in this evil. But let's be honest, I don't think anybody really faults Todd for this. I mean, if you're still participating in games media, you're there because it's funny to listen to people lie. You're not stupid. You know none of it is true. And I mean, look into his cute ass eyes. He does seem like the kind of guy that has his heart in the right place. And in an industry where insane crunch seems to be the praxis, not the exception, I respect him a lot for prioritizing his team. And it does ultimately seem like the Bethesda publishing end is more evil than the game developing end. But until the Bethesda has cleaned up their act, apologized for Fallout 76, and shown that they can do better, don't buy their games. Because there's a good chance that they won't run without community bug fixes anyway. Do you enjoy pissing your pants? Then subscribe and hit the bell to know when the next video is out. Talk to me, Nissa, here, and help me keep doing this here. And click here for a little more company. And, I have 7 freezers full of meat. All of it is, venison. I'm not an axe murderer, I swear.